Commissioner.
All right, looks like the Bannock County Board of County Commissioners is now in session. There's no changes to the agenda, but our first item is an ambulance invoice.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we enter into the Board of Ambulance.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion on the
And
invoice.
Mr. Chair, since we're within our 15 minutes while we're in the ambulance district, can we talk about the dark horse thing? Or do you need to go back and come back to it later?
No, I'm fine.
You're okay with
We're
that?
in the Board of Ambulance. Let's do it.
All right. Chief O'Hearn approached us earlier this week to talk about purchasing a subscription to Dark Horse emergency software for the ambulance district, and I feel like it's a worthy application to buy. The purpose of the Dark Horse software, it's a modeling software that will take all of your call history over the last however long you put into it and model predictive responses and response times based on personnel, equipment allocations, relocation. If you move a station from point A to point B, what will that do to your response times? And it will also do some predictive modeling into the future based on predictive growth patterns and things of that nature. Salt Lake County uses it. There are several other major metropolitan areas that use it. I've sat through a couple of the online demos, and I agree with Chief O'Hearn that this is probably something that we should participate in. They're asking for $35,000, right, for the ambulance district's contribution to the software. It's a $75,000 purchase, so they're asking the ambulance district to partner up with the $35,000. Given what we're looking at with trying to improve the ambulance service throughout the county as a whole, I feel like this would be a worthwhile investment. Chief O'Hearn has talked with the comptroller about paying for that, and I'll let her address that.
So right now, we have with the ambulance district, with 11 payments made, we have a $40,000 credit sitting there. What Chief O'Hearn wants to do is take $35,000 of that credit, and then we would only have $5,000 remaining. So he's basically going to backdate this purchase to FY23 somehow.
I didn't think that was possible to do that legitimately.
The city is going to work that out on their side.
We would never do it.
Yeah, but if the city can make that work within their books, and maybe they're gonna roll the $35,000 forward and make the purchase. I don't know how logistically they're doing it, but we do have a $40,000 credit, and they'll take 35 of that, so we'll have 5 left.
Okay, well, that to me is a bit troubling, the methodology they're using. And secondly, have we seen anything on this besides just a discussion about we want some modeling software? Do we have some information on this, or did I miss something here?
No, Chief O'Hearn was going to come and present a contract today, but we didn't want to have a contract discussion the first time, so I told him I would bring the subject forward today. We'll get you some information on that, and then Chief O'Hearn will come back on Tuesday for a formal presentation, a formal ask. So today was just to educate the board, let you know that we'll have some.
So there's no decision
We're
to
not
be made.
voting on it today.
Okay, yeah,
No.
because I would not be in favor of voting on something like this without a lot more information.
Yeah, no. Today was just to bring it to the board's attention and get you some additional information so that when Chief O'Hearn came on Tuesday, we'd be prepared to have a vote. So
It seems like an awful lot of money to figure out stuff that I think they already know, so.
I disagree with that. The predictive modeling software is pretty fascinating. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would move that we accept the invoice as presented and exit the ambulance district.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, next we have Commissioners' report invoices. Any concerns or questions?
me.
On the invoices, I did question Adam a little bit. We're paying for his trip up to the OEM conference. He said we did last year, but he was a presenter. They ought to be footing the bill for him for his motel, in my opinion. Motion on the invoices, and
Mr. Chair, I'd move that we approve the invoices, commissioner reports, and credit applications as presented.
we have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have salary rate approval forms. Any questions on them?
Did you get your question answered on the Joanne?
I did. It was a step 1 and a step 2. We shouldn't have any vacancies after this. A lot of salary rate approval forms.
I think Alex mentioned yesterday,
Don't say it.
they're
Don't
at a
say it.
very good place. in the-
Okay, thank you.
As far as staffing.
Yeah, we about threw Alex out of the room for even bringing that up like that. A very good place, I will. Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve the salary approval forms as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Nancy, looks like you're up.
Commissioner said invite the city of Pocatello to come up and we received a request to consider a TAP grant application on a project the city wants to work on, and I would refer to the city. Do you want to know those ones?
Sure. We brought some extra maps if that would help. We hand those over to you.
Take one, sure.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Christine Howe, and I'm the City of Pocatello's Grants Manager. I'm joined today by some of my colleagues. I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Becky Fab. I'm the project manager for the city of Pocatello.
Jeff Mansfield, Public Works Director.
Thank you for providing us some time this morning to talk to you about the TAP grant application. So the local Highway Technical Assistance Council, LTAC, allows for cities and counties to apply for grant funding through their Transportation Alternatives Program, typically annually. And so the purpose of this program is to look for some alternative transportation modes and ways to improve that throughout various transportation infrastructure. And one top priority area that we were looking at is the South Fifth corridor. And so for the upcoming TAP grant application, we're looking for ways to implement some of those bike ped mobility access safety improvements along South Fifth. As you can see on the map, a portion of where we're considering this project extends into the county jurisdiction. So our request for you today to consider is submitting a TAP grant application. The city is planning to submit one for those bicycle and pedestrian improvements, which would include sidewalk on the east side of South Fifth, as well as the potential for a multimodal path on the west side of South Fifth. And as you can see on the map, it would extend all the way down the Fifth Ave corridor with the goal of essentially creating a bicycle pedestrian friendly pathway to Century High School. This project is estimated to be rather expensive, so we're hoping to do it in phases. We would apply for up to $500,000 for this first round of TAP grant funding, and would ask the county to consider applying for $500,000 as well to create that connection on the east side, which would include installation of 6 feet of sidewalks. There's already existing curb and gutter there. We see this as an opportunity to sort of partner and hopefully find some cost efficiencies through a cooperative agreement potentially, which would reduce the cost of mobilization or having one contractor work on it. So we wanted to present that to you today and answer any questions you might have, as we see this as a good opportunity to move forward some of the BTPO's plans for South Fifth and potentially harness some cost efficiencies and move forward some development on that corridor there.
So you're asking us to look at a match of $36,406, is that, am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, so you would submit an application. We have some project costs estimated at $496,000, and the TAP grant does require a 7.34% match. So the county would be responsible for matching that application cost at $36,406.
They do split that cost typically. So you'll pay a portion of your match at design, which would likely be fiscal year 26, and then the other portion of construction, which would likely be fiscal year 27.
So we're 2 years out on this.
Yes, they are requesting funding for projects for 25, 26, and 27 with this grant application.
Can we have Kyle come up and talk about this?
Kyle? Questions, concerns?
I guess one question. So annexation, I know we're working on that with the city. What if in the, you said 26 or so, what if that's all city property or annexed into the city?
Yeah, so the grant would still, would either have, work with the state to transfer, so they understood the ownership, but we could still do the grant even if it's annexed. A section of this includes the Bannock County Jail, so sidewalks in front of the jail, and then sidewalks also in front of your building and planning and zoning outfit as well. So those two would remain owned by the county, but be within the city limits. So.
I thought the county didn't do sidewalks.
So, sorry, Kyle Burmester, Public Works Director. So right now for the commission, the county does not do any sidewalks. If we do any kind of agreement, say like with Chubbuck, the sidewalks, some of the subdivisions we have close to there, the sidewalks are actually in the easement. They're not in the right of way. So we don't do any maintenance on any kind of sidewalks throughout the county. That would be, I guess, my only concern is if it was actually even going to be county, jurisdiction by the time we do this grant, and what's the maintenance and stuff of a sidewalk if we have that in there, because we don't have a program for doing any of that.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Merrill Coyle, the City of Pocatello, Public Works Engineer. For sidewalks and that, first you do sidewalks. You got sidewalks all the way around the perimeter here that the county is responsible for one. Inside the county limits, you don't have those programs, but I've been working with Hal Jensen again with through the annexation and so forth to do that. Because if you look, you've got all the people coming from the jail into town and so forth too. They're walking in the street currently. So we need to start looking for those accesses and public procedures going through. In the city of Pocatello, city of Chubbuck, and most of the communities in the country, not all, the sidewalks are responsible for maintenance of the adjacent property owners. So going across where the jail is, and also where the county shops and stuff is. Once that goes in, whether it's city or county, the county still would be responsible for that maintenance and upkeep and plowing those in the wintertime. But again, we're talking, you know, a portion of it. If you go out any given time, you can see people walking and riding bikes. That's the reason why doing the west side of the public pathway and why it was designated there, so that we can get bicyclists and that clear out to the school and to start taking care of the people in Bannock County School District and the city of Pocatello all in one. The plan for the annexation, we hope to have something by the first of the year that we will be presenting to city council as far as the annexation of that area, as far out as we can get. Right now, we're following the state plan and requirements for the plan and the notifications that's got to go out to those citizens.
What's the due date on this?
January 16th.
Okay. I'd like to have a conversation with Hal also. I wouldn't move forward without having that conversation. One of my big concerns, I live in Ingham. They just put sidewalks everywhere. It's going to be a nightmare this year for our maintenance guys to remove snow, because their methods and their habits are going to change. And so the plowing and stuff that goes on out there, that's still part of the conversation that I think I have to have some answers on before.
Yeah, I think that's a
I'd
valid
move
concern,
forward.
maintenance and snow removal.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So if we go forward with this, do we go forward as two separate applications or one jurisdiction?
We'd go forward as two separate applications. We're willing to help with the grant writing and the project management, so that it, as Christine said, we can reduce costs. And I know that Kyle doesn't project manage a lot of sidewalk projects, and so we'll help out with all of that. And that way it maximizes the amount of money that can come to this community from the state with two applications, up to $1 million. We can't fund the entire length of the almost 3 miles to Century High School, but we can do our best to get close and provide that access for pedestrians to those critical, the bus depot, Century High School, the jail. Those are all critical facilities that
So without us, the max you could apply for is 500,000.
That's correct.
In this cycle.
That's
So the
correct.
next cycle, you could apply for the other 500,000 to go the rest of the way.
As far as we can go, yes.
Yeah.
We'll continue applying until we're successful, I think. But this would allow us to move quicker to provide those amenities for those pedestrians.
And I've never been through an annexation before. How fast does that happen? If you're, let's just say your council approves it in January, how fast does that go?
Well, it wouldn't be in January. That's when we will present it to the council as far as what we've done and through the plan. I'm going to guess it's probably March or April before we would ever go through that. And then once we start, from January, if we have everything ready for January with the plan that we can send out notifications, I'm going to say 90 to 120 days after that, by the time it's run through all the public hearings, gone through the state tax commission at the state level and everything, and get everything in order. So that's about where we are with that.
So July of next year, maybe?
Possibly, yes.
July or August? Okay.
This grant too, for, I know it was talked about, just a clarification, is that if the county was successful and the city was successful, we believe we'd have sidewalk all the way from the South Fifth interchange all the way to the jail is about it. So we wouldn't make it all the way to the high school or anything, but we would make it at least all the way to the jail on the east side, where the city and the county in conjunction back in probably '99 when the school was being built went in, we widened the road to 5 lanes, and we actually got Quest at the time, or AT&T and Quest together. They are the ones that actually paid for the curb and gutter all on the side that the city pushed for that to happen, because they had a critical fiber optics, and that was newer at the time, and that was the protection versus having a borrow ditch along there. So that's how that curb and gutter got installed all the way out to Century on the east side.
And we came here very early in the process, so you have time. It isn't due until mid-January, so.
Okay. We'll have a discussion with our people, and then we'll put it back on our agenda and I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want these extra maps?
Robin, why don't you come up?
Good morning,
Good morning.
Robin Simons. I have assumed the leadership of the Museum of Clean over there. Mr. Aslett is very fragile. He's finally giving up control, maybe.
That's a big step.
He isn't gone yet, so. And I just wanted to introduce myself to the commission. And I'm not asking for anything today. And so I just wanted to introduce ourselves, let you know what we're doing. I think,
Working on it.
okay, we'll get a little,
Good time.
and it's just basically where we think we're going. And we have lots of big visions, and a little money, and we're just trying to see if we can improve a lot of areas in the area. I'm particularly interested in the rural areas, and as soon as the thing comes up, we'll kind of go over that. But we're just trying to create a community of people who care about things like environment, about business, about places where you can go and talk, create business, where you can interact with nerds and engineers and people with money and businessmen, and see if there's a way that you can bring everybody together. We're willing to open our doors up to just about anything, which has not been the case. We're willing to, we've hired a lady named Samantha Stoddard, who is a events planner for us, and so I think she'll be really good. And, you know, we've got to get ourselves in order. I've been doing this 3.5 weeks, so I'm brand new, but the first thing I wanted to do is just meet as many people. Arlo Luke, some of you know him, he's helping us with this. Art Derry is volunteered to be involved with the talk. Kelly Sutton Packer has agreed to help me on our board. We've got some environmental things that we're working on. We have some international people that are willing to help us. John D. Liu, Liu, if you look on the internet, you'll see him, and he travels all over the world. He's agreed to be our consultant and help us do some environmental stuff. So that's kind of where we're going.
I'm almost there, sorry.
You're okay.
I was in a different.
So Robin grew up in McCammon.
That's right. That's right.
He's a Marsh Valley guy.
And so did my wife Laura. So Don's
Graduated
daughter.
with me.
So we lived here till we were 30, and then we moved where we could get a job, basically. And we've been in Utah for a long time. And Don has asked me to take this over and see if I can make a go of it. There is funding there for multiple years, probably 10 years from his estate. He broke his estate off, part to the kids and part to the building. It's a very expensive building to run, but it's a empty building for the most part. And we're just trying to figure ways that we can attract business, we can attract entrepreneurs, we can attract places where people can come and develop a concept of how do I start a business, how do I have an invention, how do I connect with an engineer, a business owner. And so it's pretty nebulous right now. We'd like to identify one or two areas that we focus on and try to bring a community of people within the area and outside the area as well to focus on those things. I've worked with a group called the Innovation Collective out of Coeur d'Alene for 4 or 5 years on this project, even though I didn't have any say in it. And basically what they did is they decided they wanted to have their community known as a robotics center. And so they have an extension of one of the universities, I think University of Moscow there, and they brought all the players and said, how can we focus our energy on this? And a lot of it was just getting together and talking, communicating, bringing speakers in, looking for people with crazy ideas that just might work. Some of those crazy ideas really work, but we need a place to gather. We need a place to talk, and we don't care who wins. We don't care who loses. You know, we don't want credit for it or anything like that. We just want to open our doors and open our resources to see if there's any way that we can make this work.
Okay.
Okay, so this is kind of what we're going to call it. We're going to call it the Clean World Campus instead of the Museum of Clean, which was Don's really idea. That's the name of his foundation anyway. Environmental restorations, you can kind of read those there. Of course, the Museum of Clean, we're talking with the Children's Discovery Museum in Chubbuck about their lease runs out next June, about bringing them in. We think it's a good match. It'll bring our attendance up to about 50,000 people a year if everything goes well. And so it's a lot of people going through there. We're going to start using the building for that. But there are 2, maybe 3 floors of about 7,200 square feet that are vacant that we'd like to bring people in, but we'd like them to have a purpose. We'd like them to not just on a transactional basis, but a visionary thing they can bring in. Maybe they can bring in jobs, maybe they can bring inventions, maybe they can bring other things into that. And so it's a big long-term vision, but that's kind of what we're trying to do. We're having special collections come in now every quarter. We're bringing a new, if any of you have been there, they've had the art center there for 15 years, and it's the same art, same everything. So last month we brought in some fantasy art and some Australian opal collections. We've got an artist coming in. We're trying to get the, not the Remington, but the Browning Museum to bring up a display of guns, let us use. So that's the kind of, we're just trying to bring people in, get them used to coming, and see if there's things we can do. Our event center is open and vacant. Any kind of event. One of the ideas we have maybe for spring would be to have a, I don't know what to call it yet, but some sort of an inventions fair where people can come in. Everybody pays $5 and they can bring any kind of idea they have, any kind of invention, and having a crazy thing that they have, and just there'll be people there to talk about it. We'll try to have some inventors, some engineers, some people with money and that sort of stuff to come in.
So how big is the event center?
10,000 square feet.
And you have seating, or what, how do you?
It's just a shell right now. So we set up tables. Years ago, they did some weddings, some when there's some things that when kids turn 16, they have some things that happen. I forget the name of it. And so it's open, and they've done art walks, they've done flea markets, they've done stuff like that. And so it's just a matter. It's basically it'll be like a big event center, a hall, and we can set up booths, or we can just set up chairs, or we can set up tables, and people just come in just to talk. I mean, just
We just had our health fair, and that kind of crossed my mind. A little closer than where we had it and stuff. Could be something to look at.
We'd love to have you involved, and so let's switch here, and I'll just quickly get to my. I don't want to go too far in this, but so our environmental restorations. There's a guy named John D. Liu I told you about. He's an internationally. He spoke at the United Nations Environmental as a keynote speaker this year in New York. So he's very well known. He's agreed to help us. I don't know why. So we're working on, especially out in the valley, some places we can make in ecological sanctuaries. We have camps. Kids come in. They can work in the garden. They can plant trees. They can dig out invasive species, that sort of stuff. These are just ideas. I mean, we're not anywhere near getting going, but that's kind of the portion. I did a survey on SurveyMonkey a month ago, and I used the Clean World because that's kind of the name of the foundation. 85% of the people who responded thought of environment. 15% or 10% thought of clean house, clean, kind of the vacuum thing that's been through, and 5% said personally clean. So what that meant to me was that there's a lot better chance to attract people that are concerned about the environment, maybe, than there are that want to see an old vacuum. And so that's kind of the way we're trying to go. Don had that in his vision. He got sick and all that stuff, wasn't able to pursue it, as you know, but that's kind of the idea. We're trying to get for the spring an on-house greenhouse up on the second floor. There's a big terrace out there. you're all welcome to come and look at it and let us know, and we'll show you around. But we're looking for a greenhouse and a environmental place where we grow natural trees, Idaho bushes, things that we can either transplant to other places, or just kids get to know what the environment, what the stuff really looked like, instead of all the invasive species and things. So let's go to the next one. Okay, the Museum of Clean, it is what it is, but the good thing is there are about between 7,000 and 8,000 visitors come that are out of town. Almost all of our people that visit come from out of town, all over the world, and we're not taking advantage of that at all. And so that's something that we think makes sense. We haven't collected any data. We haven't asked for donations. It's just been kind of Don's project, and he just come and see, and if you like it, fine. So we're kind of working on that. We've talked to the Portland Beautification people. I'm meeting them today again about local environmental companies or groups, nonprofits, whatever, doing displays in our museum to say this is something we're doing locally. We're not charging anything for it. They'll just come and do it, and it helps them to get some environmental exposure in the community and nationwide and worldwide, because most of these people are like me. They're 70s hippies, you know, they're traveling in the world and wandering around, the baby boomers, and trying to find something to do. And they have money, they have environmental concerns, and they love to come and see museums. So that's kind of, we don't want to mess with that, because that's a lot of visitors to come. I mean, it's not huge, but for us it's a lot of visitors, and we hope to increase that by about 5,000 to 10,000 in the next 2 or 3 years, which is good for everybody, I think. Okay? Any questions? I've been talking a lot.
You don't talk near as fast as Don does.
That is a fact. Okay, the Children's Discovery Museum, we're just in negotiations. We haven't signed any deals, but they estimate they'll add about 25,000 to 30,000 visitors per year. It's basically young through 8, 9, 10-year-olds. They emphasize the STEAM or STEM education right now. STEAM is adding art to it, and we're going to ask them to include the environmental. And we don't want to be hard right wing or left wing on this. We want it to be apolitical. We just want it to be good for what like the picture behind you. It's just what's good for Mother Earth, and what's good for the rivers, and what's good for the people. And we don't want to get caught up in too much in global warming, or we don't want to catch up in the Davos set or all the kind of stuff like that. We just want it to be what's good for the environment. And there's lots of opportunities out in the valley. I'm negotiating now on a 60-acre parcel that we can do some of this stuff, and we'll see how it goes. But their big thing is birthday parties, events like that. Anytime you can get kids into an environment, they're having parties, they're having fun, and they also learn about the environment, or they learn about STEM technology, we think is a good thing. And so that's kind of the concept we're going to do. And we're thinking about merging the two foundations together. We'll see how that goes. So next page. Okay, these are the two special collections, and we just bring them into the art room. We attracted about 150 extra visitors last week, or the weekend we did it, which is not huge, but we're going to try and do that all the time, so that there's always something going on, that people that are wandering want to come see stuff. And I haven't shot a gun in 40 years, but Idaho is crazy about guns. And so when I saw the Marsh Valley cheerleaders auctioning off a .22 with a clip and a spot scope on, I thought, oh, that's kind of good. So that's and if you know anyone that has a collection they'd like to show off, we're not charging for it. I talked to a lady last week from the geology department. Maybe we'll do some stuff, but anyone that has a collection they'd like to show off, artists, stuff like that, we're happy to talk to them and let them come in for a day or a week or a month, and let the people who are coming in look at it. It helps us, and it helps the people bring it in as well. Okay. I think this is the last one. So our event center, these are the things we've done in the past. We're really going strong on the humanitarian approach. The Salvation Army is using this for the next month. We've got some veterans things we're planning, And so it's going to be, again, it's just more of an introduction, say, here we are, what we're trying to do. We're not asking for anything. If you have any ideas or you'd like to see something happen there, or you know people who'd like to focus on a specific area, whether it's environmental, whether it's technology, whether it's robotics or whatever, we'd like to create a community that's all focused together. I don't have to be involved, and I don't have to lead it, I don't have to do anything. We're just saying we'd like to gather some people together that want to see some increase in economy, inventions, in things that Pocatello can be known for. And I'm not sure what Pocatello is really known for right now. There's areas. Our area down there is not known for much. That's, other than the museum has some issues, but we'd like to focus on an area that we all, whoever we are, would like to sit down and say, we want to focus on this area. We want to promote it. We want to push it. We want to bring experts in. We want to get known that we are a leader locally, nationwide, globally in this area. And so it takes a lot of time and effort and work. But as you think about things, if you have an idea, let us know. We're trying to. I'm making the rounds for everybody that I can. Arlo, Luke helps me get into just about anywhere I need to go. And so we're just talking. Talk is cheap. And so that's what we're trying to do, is figure out where the best way to focus this, how we can best use our resource, because it's a big, beautiful building. It needs to be used, it needs to be full, it needs to be attracting people, and so that's kind of my story. Any questions, or get the heck out of here?
I like the building. It's pretty down there.
I have a question. Do you have a kitchen for the events?
There is a kitchen back there. It's currently, Don has been living in the back there because of his lack of mobility. He wants to stay in his baby building. So there is a kitchen. There's not one that's set apart particularly for that, but if and when the time comes that we can alter that, we will do that. But
You're talking about just a regular, not a commercial kitchen, it's a little house
just a
kitchen.
straight kitchen, yeah. Yeah, in the past, they haven't done too much as far as alcohol or food prep. They bring it in, get their stuff like that, but if you're gonna do certain types of things, then you'll need that. But in the past, when they've done the weddings and the 16-year-old celebrations, they brought their own stuff in or had it catered.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, thank you very much for your time.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Scott?
Good morning, Commission. Scott Crowther, Event Director, Business Manager.
Lucarina Schoonover, President of Pocatello Downs.
Today we have the Pocatello Downs contract for next year. Last year we did a one-year contract. We tried something new last year. In previous years, Pocatello Downs had paid us roughly $20,000, and they held the alcohol license and the ability to run concessions up there. Last year, we essentially traded the fee for the alcohol and concession sales with a 50% split going back to Pocatello Downs. So my suggestion is to do the same thing next year, where essentially we take the revenue generated from alcohol sales and then we split the concessions 50-50. This was the first year where we actually saw any money from the concessions, from the food side, and then the alcohol side. I think we did pretty well. In total, we generated about nearly $30,000 in total sales, and so we ended up giving Pocatello Downs a check for around $3,000, $3,500, somewhere in that area, for the concession split, and then we took all of the proceeds from the alcohol sales. As this was our first year, at times we had to guess and kind of spitball on our staffing levels. We have much better data moving forward, and we also are rolling into next season with some food and alcohol credits that will also reduce our overhead moving forward. So I thought this year was a pretty good year for us. I think we can get better as far as what our profit margins look like in the future. But that's just, as we get a little more data, we can figure it out. Pocatello Downs also paid us for the use of the office, which is, I think, was $1,200 for the year.
Scott,
So.
on the concessions, it's after costs, right?
Yes, so the
That's
split
what's
is
net.
after costs.
Sorry about
Yes.
that.
Yes. So,
So we were getting, prior to this, they were paying us $20,000 a year.
yes.
And now after this new deal, we made $3,500 in concessions.
No, we brought in $30,000. We gave them back $3,500 for their split.
So we brought in
50-50.
$30,000, that's gross, right?
Yes.
So what was the net?
26.5 roughly?
Yeah, somewhere in that area. I mean, I think that with all of our food and beverage, the thing that we did this year is we kind of threw everything with all the concerts and Pocatello Downs, we threw all of our inventory into the one pool. And so like we talked about earlier, at the end of this year, we actually have $10,000 worth of credit for alcohol. We have some remaining food that we can roll over. So that really springboards us for next year. And so typically it's going to be about 20 to 30% of the cost generated. This year, I think our costs were a little bit higher because we didn't have we didn't know what to expect from a staffing standpoint.
And we also got rained out a couple of days,
We did get rained out twice.
so.
So the
How much-
26.5 isn't legit?
The 26.5,
That doesn't take out the costs?
yeah.
Okay.
So I've
So
got
you're saying the
29.8
net
minus
would
the
be
3,000.
30% of that 26.5?
Yeah. So even 30% of that 26.5, I mean, that's,
So we're probably about at the 20,000
yeah,
mark.
close to the 20,000 mark.
Still.
And that was minus 2 days for rainouts. for rain days.
And we've changed our schedule a little bit for next year. We're not gonna be as spread out. And typically, Sundays are our best days. I don't know why, but Sundays are our best days, and I can almost guarantee you that you will see an increase in concessions and beer sales, because our attendance is just, it's always been better on Sundays, as long as the weather holds out for us. So-
And just so you're aware, also Commissioner Crowder, is in the past, Pocatello Downs has held the beer license for that area up there. The county has not. And we can't split alcohol. By law, we can't split alcohol. So as soon as we took over the alcohol license for the entire complex, we had to then take over that revenue, which they had used to kind of offset the cost that they paid us for that $20,000. And that's why this is, in my opinion, is a pretty good trade as far as we're getting about what we got last year. I mean, we will get better as we dial in our costs a little bit more. And a lot of that just is knowing what to expect. The other thing that we've changed this contract to the previous contract is in last year's contract, Pocatello Downs could bring in food trucks, up to 3 food trucks per day, and then the proceeds for the food trucks went to Pocatello Downs. We're now kind of pulling that ability over to us to say, if we feel like food trucks are necessary, that we can call them in. We'll take the percentage split from the food trucks, and then we'll divide that out with our general food food split with Pocatello Downs. That way, we're not competing against other folks for the concession sales as well.
When we had the contract with 20,000,
Mm-hmm.
they just gave us $20,000.
Yes.
What were our costs that we, because we did have some costs to incur. What were our costs?
We did, yeah. So our costs generally are, we give, the venue rental for those days. They have the stall rentals. For the season, they have access to the track. We felt like the 20,000 was a pretty good comparison of what our actual costs were to maintain the venue for that time. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite.
I think there's a $20,000 cost. So
It cost us 20,000 and we got paid 20,000.
I think it was pretty close to that. Yeah. So just a little bit of history is, what was it? 4 years ago, the contract was $10,000. The year before that, it was a little bit less than that. I don't remember. It was maybe in the $6,000 range. So we bumped it to 10,000. The next year we bumped it to 20,000. And then we did this, essentially a trade. They generated about $25,000 in alcohol sales. Because we took the alcohol license, we wanted to see if this would work as far as trading sales for use of the venue for that, essentially that $20,000 price tag.
Because Pocatello Downs, that was the only avenue we had for revenue, was through our alcohol sales. We get X amount of dollars based off of a percentage from the State of Idaho Racing Commission. So we get a lump sum of money at the beginning of the season, and then our alcohol sales and admission, it was the only, revenue that we could generate. So for us to have to pay $20,000 and give up the alcohol sales, I mean, basically we would, and we had to pay $47,000 in insurance this year. And my check from the state for expenses was $56,000. So, I mean, we run on a very tight budget. So this has worked, it worked well for us this year. If we were to have to pay $20,000 to rent the facility, we would just have to cancel our event.
And for us, it's essentially, I mean, the $30,000 we'll be able to bring our costs down over the year. We just didn't, I think food and beverage this is our first year where we ran food and beverage ourselves. And I know there were some days when we probably had too many staff up there. And so it's just a matter of getting better at what we do as time goes on. So we have to have the data to do that, right? So, and this, to me, this is a good trade. We do similar things like when we bring in monster trucks, we give them, it's a relatively cheap fee because we get the alcohol and the concessions as part of that. So that's where we make up the revenue. A lot of times we'll try to make up the revenue in some of those other areas because most folks would prefer to handle that side themselves because that's where all the revenue is generated from events. It's not generated through ticket sales.
It's a 1-year contract.
Mm-hmm.
So when I've been up there, biggest complaint I've heard is the cost of a beer.
Yeah, that was us.
Have you had any conversations about adjusting that?
Yeah, and we adjusted it for the last 2 races. We brought that price down a little bit. Obviously, the people that we have running our concessions have been doing it for a long time, and look at the markups. One of the challenges that we face is, man, there's just different levels that people want to buy. The big issue we heard was not necessarily the cost of the beer; it was the cost and the size.
Yeah.
So people wanted, if we sold a 30-ounce beer, or I think a 24-ounce beer, it got warm. If we sold them 2 12-ounce beers, it was better. They would still buy the same amount of alcohol. It literally was just about keeping it cold longer. And so those are minor changes that we look to make, but yeah.
And that's what I'd heard.
Yeah, that was the
Is that
biggest,
is that a marketing ploy for you guys? Because I can't drink a warm beer, so then I have to go buy another big beer because I haven't drank all the small beer or the big beer.
As honestly, it was a matter of trying to get the right price from our vendors and trying to get the best deal.
You can sell sleeves along with the beer, and then you can
sleeves.
Sleeve, the thing you put it in.
Yeah, koozies.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Just try to throw out some.
No.
I mean, but by
Yeah,
the end
for
of the season, the horse races, it's been a cheap day to come to the races. You get in for cheap beer and you have a day at the races. And so it was an adjustment for everybody. And they started getting over it. I was going to get a shirt that says, "It wasn't me, Paul Scott."
Well, when I was there, they knew who it was because they told me.
So, they got over it.
Any other questions?
Is the number of stalls rental down from the previous year?
So day of the races, it's the same. It's the day of the race is the big thing. They have access to the stalls during the week with certain events like high school and junior high rodeo, that kind of stuff. They release some of those stalls back to us. And as a matter of fact, Pocatello Downs was great. We brought in the Omoski last year, and they let us, kind of take back a bunch of those stalls as part of that contract as well. They've worked really well with us as far as that stuff's concerned. The people that stay up there and train year round, I think has decreased, but that doesn't really impact us a ton. We're doing different things with, you know, some of the horse waste, and so that's where the biggest issue would be is just in the removal of the waste. But yeah, I think there's a handful of folks that don't stall out there year round anymore.
And some of that's okay.
Yeah, sometimes that is okay. Yeah.
More than okay.
I knew you'd get it. Anything else?
Just lastly, if I'm reading this correctly, Pocatello Downs will take care of maintaining the track on
Yes.
race days and then during training days. Is that,
Mhm.
did I read that correct? Okay.
Yeah, and again, we've talked a little about this, that they have a larger tractor with a bigger groomer.
Right.
They're able to groom the track pretty quickly. I believe that we could do it with our groomers. It would take us 2 to 3 times as long. And then the other issue is these guys all train at different times of the day. You have some people that come in the morning, mid-afternoon, evenings, and so the track gets groomed and maintained by their folks that way. It takes a big burden off of us to try to.
And the biggest
Trim
thing
that.
that's helped is like if they have a big event, they do come in and rip it and water it, and then we can go in and groom it. So, you know, putting it back after we've had an event, after the county's had an event. And I think that's going to be a lot easier this year too, because I mean, we're basically running the whole month of May, Saturdays and Sundays. So there's not really any other events that are really going to come in on top of us. So that's going to cut down on some of the, you know, them having to rip and water the track after their events. And then we have 2 days in July, and that'll be all we'll be running. So that's going to cut down on a little bit of maintenance as well.
And we did increase the number of events up there this year by quite a few. We brought some rodeos. There were rodeos that we started. I mean, most of the Idaho Junior rodeos happen up in the grandstands. We brought in 2 different districts, Idaho 4 and Idaho 8. They all came up and did all their rodeos up in that area. So we literally were flipping the track back and forth.
A lot.
A lot. So.
I'm good with it.
Okay, motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve the contract for Pocatello Downs as discussed.
A motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, good luck.
Thanks. Just pray for good weather.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Good for some, it's different for others.
Just no rain and I'm
Yeah.
All right, Jason.
Morning, Commission.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, Jason Dye, Child Court Administrator. We're looking at, as we discussed a little bit last week, we're looking at some office space issues. We have 2 coordinators that were housed previously over at the D6, and those spaces are being taken by the new positions at the counselor and the case manager. And so we're looking at trying to find another office space temporarily until the remodel's done, where we'll be able to get some office space back. And the space that we looked at most recently is the conference room behind the misdemeanor probation in the annex. And we believe that space would be sufficient for those 2 coordinators to be able to share the space. We have a petition to go between their offices. I spoke with misdemeanor probation. They use that area rarely, and reported that they would be able to use a different space that they have for their meetings, and they would support us being able to use that space.
Have you talked to Dan when the projection is for the courthouse be ready?
I did talk to him. He says it's very difficult for him to project. I think, because I'm coming in a little bit late to it, but I believe the original plan that both courtroom remodels would be done by now. But with other projects the Juvenile Assessment Center and those things that were grant-based and ARPA fund-based, they took priority over that. And so right now our goal is, and after talking with Jeff, he recommended that I present the plan because it's been so long that it might need to be refreshed with everybody.
Okay.
But our plan is mid-January is to move Judge Jarman down into the new courtroom, and then the remodels start to take place in her courtroom, which we're hoping will be done sometime during the summer, and then she'll move back up there, and then Judge Axline will move into that new space.
Okay. You've talked to Evie. There's agreements. Any?
No,
you've heard?
Evie said that everything I've heard from her has been that they don't use it often, and the conflict attorneys aren't using it often either. So.
Okay. No, might as well get them back over here instead of over at Town Center. Any questions?
No.
Okay, let's move forward.
Thank you very much.
All right, Tony.
Morning, Tony Bannock, Bannock County Sheriff. So today I'm here to ask to utilize some funds out of the opioid settlement fund. To fund kind of the beta program that we're starting we'd like to start in the jail, and it's basically a medication for opioid use disorder. The paper-clipped stack I gave you, the top page, it's a single page, it's not stapled. That's kind of the cliff notes of how the program works. And the other stapled version is a more detailed explanation on how the program works from when a person comes into our facility and then to the point they are released. So the program basically deals with opioid use disorder, the funding, and the one bigger packet I gave you was kind of an explanation from the Attorney General's office of how those funds can be used. That's basically whatever program you start, it has to follow the guidelines.
For opioid.
For opioid. Yeah. And the funding is definitely something that Attorney General set out those guidelines on how those fundings should be used. So the ask is $15,000. That's to kind of seed money for the first 3 months. Speaking to our medical provider just this morning prior to coming to this meeting, $15,000 is probably more than enough for the three months to figure out where this program, what it's going to cost, what it takes to run it. It's really a shot in the dark of how much. We don't foresee it costing more than that in this 3 months. And if it doesn't cost that much, the money will be used to continue the program and figure out where we lie. We'll evaluate it monthly to see where we are. The program is only for county sentenced inmates. So they're not used for people that are sentenced to IDOC or federal inmates. It's only local prisoners. So the idea is when they come through, they go through a filtering, kind of a filtering process where they're asked certain questions by the medical provider and our deputies. And then when that first screening, and it all explains it right here, and then if they qualify for this program, and it's going to be capped at 15 initially to see, basically that's going to be our control group. We won't ever exceed 15 just because it's what the current medical staff that we have. I don't think they can handle more than that at this point. And then the idea is treat them while they're here. they've got to be at least sentenced in our jail for at least 7 days. They can't be any less, or this program doesn't work for them. So if they're in there longer, that's kind of one of those qualifiers that we look for. And then the idea is, as they get treatment while they're in our facility, the idea is handing them off to another entity outside of our facility, like America Health, like, I can't remember the group that we talked about that's with.
The Hope and Recovery, or
Yeah, Hope and Recovery. We've reached out to them.
Hope South now.
Yeah. America Health has been in our facility prior to this. And the whole reason we had them come in prior to this is to get their face in our facility, and that the people in our jail will be familiar with America Health, and that when this program is kicked off, the people that are in this program feel a little more comfortable when they're released into the hands of America Health, and hopefully they continue treatment. And the whole point is to try to cut down on overdose, because that first 30 days when people that use opioids, that first 30 days of release is when the high probability that they overdose, because they've been off the drugs or whatever opioids they've been using. And usually when they get out and they have no contact, they go back and they use whatever amount they were using prior to coming in, but they've been off it for so long that that level exceeds what they've been on lately, and then they overdose. So the hope is, if we can hand them off their provider, and we give them a set amount of medication that we've used in our facility, hopefully it helps, and we have got a provider that we can hand off, which these providers are willing to come to our facility and pick them up. Currently, they just started in Bonneville County Jail. They started this program about 2 weeks ago. Ivy Medical is the one that is running that program, so we're all running parallel to this program. We're waiting to see how it's going. Currently, I think they've only got 2 people in their program right now that qualified. So, like I said, right now the $15,000 is seed money, and the ask is for using money out of the opioid settlement fund, which I think each county that applied at that time of that lawsuit have been awarded money.
There will be some reporting requirements on this, to do annual reporting for opioid monies.
Because of the monies.
Yeah. Currently, we've just been receiving money. So to date, we have
$280.
$336,663.74.
No, I'm excited for this program. We have a lot of groups come in and ask for money, and during budget time, let's say they're doing all kinds of stuff. Then we don't hear anything about them till the next year when they come in and ask for money again, and we don't really hear a good report, in my opinion. So something that is within the county, and that we have regular updates and see how things are going.
Right.
I would be excited to have that.
And Ivy Medical is going to help us gauge and track everything to see where we are.
If we can keep people from coming back or overdosing and stuff, we have the funds to do it, so
I just
that's the way I
need to-
feel about it.
I need to get with Brian or the Attorney General's office and see what kind of documentation we need. From just looking at the report that I've already submitted, it just has a section for approved use, what subsection, the payment amount, and then I have to upload copies of the subdivision's budget sections or resolutions that support. So I think I may only need a resolution approving the contract and then probably the contract, but let me get clarification.
It'd be good. Like I say, I have other groups that have been coming forward and saying, well, give us your opioid money. And I'm not really willing just to do that without some results.
You're saying it was 15?
15.
Yeah, and we have 300 some odd thousand? Okay.
Of course, it's going to be an ongoing cost, but
Right.
speaking to Sherry, she doesn't think this is going to cost, that 15 will probably exceed 3 months at this point. 'Cause we really don't know how many people are going to qualify and fall into this program. And it's voluntary. I mean, we can't make them unless, then the thought is speaking with misdemeanor probation as we move forward and finding where that they may fill the gap in there, that they have clients that you know, that
So-
have jail time over their head that, you know.
So you have people that are being arrested, and they're going to jail for whatever reason, but they happen to have been using all these opioids.
Oh, and they generally come in under the influence.
Yeah.
And on there it says there's actually a detox time before they can even be considered.
And so after they've detoxed,
Correct.
then what this program does is you have some kind of medication that's
Correct.
supposed to help them wean off the opioids.
Correct.
And then hopefully when they transition out, they continue on that medication.
Exactly.
And do not jump back on
Yep.
the opioids.
Yes.
And you said something about they use more and overdose, and so maybe I don't understand how.
No, they generally go back to what they were using, the amount they were using prior to being incarcerated.
This is what I've used for the last
Oh,
year.
I see.
Yes.
I've been
But
off
you would think
drugs.
you would
They've
use
been
less.
off of it. No.
Well, they should.
They should.
They don't realize that.
Okay,
And that's how they overdose.
Yep.
okay.
So that first 30 days of release is really a critical time for when those people, if they're not on a program. If they've been in the jail, let's say 30 days, and they get out and they go back to using the same amount they did prior to being incarcerated, they generally
Okay,
overdose.
that all makes sense. Yeah, I think this is really a good, I mean, yeah, it's shot in the dark, but it's worth it, I think.
Well, yeah, we've got to do something because we're getting that along with, when they're in opioid, usually it enhances the mental
Right.
health issues, which
Right.
go hand in hand. So it really, it's a two-part, hopefully it's a two-part thing and help with both situations. So we'll see. It's worth tracking to
Oh, yeah.
find out where this goes.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty excited about you know, I know Ivy Medical's pretty excited about seeing how the results of this.
You know, I'm in support of this, so the next questions do not detract from my support, but I have some reservations about using Suboxone in the jail. I know how that works and what that does, and sometimes that is just a substitute
Right.
to continuing when you get done. So what's the methodology or the thought process? Because if I read this correctly, you're not going to give them Suboxone unless they've been there or at least 7 days, or they have to have a 10-day minimum before they can even be considered for the Suboxone.
Mhm.
So by that 10-day, they're fairly clean, not all the way, but then going back to the Suboxone, it just kind of gives them that feeling again without all the after effects, if I understand that correctly.
It keeps them from the urges of wanting to go back to their chemical that
Right.
they use.
But it can become a crutch to get them from the jail to getting out and doing something else when they're out. That's my only concern is, and again, I don't have any statistics to back up where I'm coming from, but that's my only concern with this program.
Well, I know that's the whole thought about handing them off to another provider that'll continue whatever treatment they're on, so that they don't just go off the hand, because right now, we just kick them out.
Right.
And we see them probably 24 hours later with an ambulance or, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm in support of the program.
Right.
I just have some concerns about the Suboxone just being a crutch to get them till they get back out, and then just coming back, maybe not 30 days later, but whatever. So.
Well, and that's why they're going to give them like a 5-day supply, or I can't remember what of that, with the commitment, and there's a commitment signature that they have that they're going to see their provider or that America Health, who also are prescribers, that can give them that medication to continue a program of rehab as well. So, and that's the big key, is who we hand them off when they are released. And hopefully that's a road to success, and not just kicking them out to the curb and the new sidewalk that we're going to have to pay.
They still have a place to sit. Well, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the 15,000 opioid funds for this program. I think it's a good attempt.
Okay. Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Go forward and do good
All right,
things.
thank you.
Shanda.
Is
is, what's left? Is it Shanda, said we were ARPA next after that?
And then we have Christie, then we gotta go back up here to Ryan and back up here
Seems
to
we need
Nancy.
Let's take a recess, if that's all right.
Right now, or you after?
I can wait till after
Okay.
she talks.
All right.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shanda Crystal, Chief Procurement Officer. I have a procurement update for the board today. I'd like to start with the first one for the Commissioners, the forensic pathologist building shell, the outside of that. That we had our first meeting yesterday, and I'm going to draft a calendar and an invitation to bid on that, and kick it out to the group for review and comment. So that project is starting. The next one is for the fairgrounds for the 2 metal barns. That one has been drafted and moved to that team for review and comment. And I'm just waiting to hear back from them as far as anything we need to adjust and change going forward. On the road and bridge fuel, I also met with them yesterday to refine our specifications for that project. We were looking at a couple different people. The state of Idaho goes out for an annual bid on that, and so we looked at theirs as a model. Ada County Highway District is another one that does it for an annual basis, as well as Solano County, which is outside of Idaho, but they do the same fuel bid for the year, are our 3 models that we are modeling after. And as at discussion with Kyle and his team, have refined those specs and look to draft something and have it back to their team probably by the end of the month. And the emergency services, the Lava Ranches, for a fuels reduction contractor. Our grant manager went out to the Lava Ranches early November to look at beginning a treatment prescription. Charity was uncertain of how long that might take him to get that done, as he's never seen the property before, doesn't know quite what it's going to entail to match to the grant, but that is at least started. Once that is complete, we can hold the pre-bid meetings on that. We are crossing our fingers like the nice racehorse lady that Mother Nature will comply and we'll get that done before winter comes. But again, we just have to wait to see how long that treatment prescription takes. If we can get those pre-bids done before spring, fantastic. We can finish out the rest of the process and award the contract. Then the contractor will be able to move just as soon as he can. If Mother Nature is not compliant, we'll have to wait until the spring comes. That's the only thing we're kind of looking at. But we got fingers crossed.
You made me smile, though.
Fingers crossed.
A nice racehorse lady. Because I got some grandchildren that it's Grandma Chickens, because she has chickens.
There we go. Right? I have a grandma in the trees, so that's probably why racehorse lady came out. But,
it was a nice label, though.
There we go. That is all I have for the board, unless you have any questions.
The other fuel reduction contract, did that all get completed and everything done on that?
So Cottonwood?
Yeah.
I need to check, or maybe Nancy might know more as far as Charity closing out that grant. I knew that they, that the state had come out to do its final inspection, so I do know that piece at least happened. But as far as the grant closeout, I'm uncertain. Okay, I can check with Charity and just see where we are.
And the check that we wrote out and then canceled, did that get all cleaned up?
Yes, unless there is additional, if the bonding company for any reason changes what they told us, I just asked that contractor to keep in touch with us, but yes. Today, as far as we know, everything is cleaned and closed and done.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, Christie. Oh, recess. Something like